Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. And we are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hey there, all you porcupines, this is your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project, Eric Brakey, coming to you for episode 99 of the Porcupine Report. 99, that feels like a lucky number. Well, we're going to have a great guest today and a great conversation. Before we get there, though, I always want to mention a few things up front. Let's start with our sponsors. Our first sponsor is, as always, our good friends at Porcupine Coffee Roasting. I've got some here right in my mug. I do believe that is a fantastic cup of coffee from Free Staters right here in the Free State. They import specialty grade beans from other parts of the world, bring them right here to New Hampshire, roast them fresh, and then they ship them out to you wherever you are, whether you are here in the freest state in the country, New Hampshire, or in one of the other 49 states less free, even godforsaken places like Texas, like our guest today. They can ship you porcupine coffee right to you. So if you go to porcupinecoffeeroasting.com and use our discount code PORKREPORT, you'll save 15% off your order, and a little piece of that will go to support the show. So that's a win-win-win all around. So wherever you are, you can get a little bit of that Free State spirit in your cup to energize you as you go about your day. So be sure to support them and get some great coffee. And I want to say also thank you to our second sponsor, which is the Independence Inn. The Independence Inn is a historic bed and breakfast right in Stratford, New Hampshire. And it's owned and operated by Free Staters. Their mission is to have a landing spot where those visiting the Free State who want to experience the Free State community or communities. There's a lot of different communities around New Hampshire in the Free State participants. That you can plan a porcupine vacation any time of year. Pick a week, any week. There's 52 to pick from, and there are always amazing events happening here in New Hampshire. Personally, I'm looking forward to at the Shell Clubhouse on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Robbie the Fire Bernstein is coming up. But that's one awesome event I'm looking forward to, that stand-up comedy night, as one example of what you'll find when you check out the FSP.org calendar. But whatever week you choose to come to visit New Hampshire, check out the Independence Inn at nhindependenceinn.com. And when you are registering for your stay, tell them the Free State Project sent you, and they'll give you up to 50% off your stay. Why would they do that? I doubt they're even making money at that point, but it's because their mission is for people who love freedom to have an opportunity to come and visit and experience what it's like to be a porcupine for a week. So plan your porcupine vacation. Check them out, nhindependenceinn.com, and tell them the Free State Project sent you. You'll have a great time, and they will be able to point you in the right direction on where the best events are, how to meet some great people in the community. Not only you get a place to stay, you get people who will really help you maximize your time here. So check them out, the Independence Inn. Thank you to both of our sponsors. And of course, I want to also really, really encourage you. We are less than a month out now from the 2026 New Hampshire Liberty Forum. Our theme this year is Build Freedom. And of course, the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, if you've never been, this is always like where ideas, like you find out about things just before they're about to go really big. The most prominent case of that is so many people learned about Bitcoin over a decade ago, back when you could get it for a few bucks at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. Who knows what you're going to find out about this year? We're talking about advances in gun rights, advances in defend the guard to bring our troops home. We're talking about emerging technologies with next generation nuclear power and artificial intelligence, so many things. And what I'm really looking forward to is the not just the great main stage talks that are going to be happening, including from our guest today, who I'll be introducing in a little bit. He'll be one of our keynote speakers. But we also have 8 dialogue sessions that are small group deep dive conversations on really interesting topics about how we can, in a practical sense, in the here and now, build freedom. I'm going to be leading a dialogue on why and how the 2nd District of Maine should break away and join New Hampshire, like the Greater Idaho Project is trying to do out on the West Coast between Oregon and Idaho. We're going to be talking about how could we apply some of those ideas here in our northeastern corner of the country. And there are so many other topics going on. So you're going to want to go to nhlibertyforum.com and get your ticket and use my discount code PORKREPORT to save 5% on the ticket price. Whether you're getting a VIP ticket for $300, a general admission ticket for $150, or a student ticket for $100, you can save 5% on any of those with that discount code PORKREPORT. I really look forward to seeing you there. And I do want to say a thank you, as always, to our Porcupine patron community. We have about 300 Porcupine patrons, people who are giving at least $100 a year to support the year-round mission of the Free State Project. When you become a Porcupine patron, you get a lot of benefits, including one of these awesome Porcupine patron lapel pins, which is not just for show. I mean, it's pretty awesome, you got to admit. It's very fashionable. But in addition to that, those Porcupine patron lapel pins give you special perks at FSP events. And they tell everyone that you're someone who puts your money where your mouth is. Not only are you someone who supports liberty, you are, in fact, using some of your limited financial resources to support the most effective libertarian strategy ever tried, this concentration strategy here in New Hampshire. And it's tax deductible too. So at the same time as you're supporting the Free State Project, you are literally taking money out of the mouths of the war machine so they can't bomb more people in foreign countries. I mean, I guess, to be honest, they're just printing the money at the Federal Reserve. But, you know, it's a nice thought. Make it harder for them. Don't just fork your money over to the federal government. Give it to the Free State Project instead. We'll do a lot of good with it. So fsp.org/give is the place to become a Porcupine patron. And while you're there at the Free State Project website, be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which I write and we publish every single Sunday. The most optimistic libertarian newsletter you'll ever receive, because we have actual victories to brag about all the time in New Hampshire. All right, let's hop into our conversation for today. I'm really excited to have returning to the show one of my favorite guests, a good friend, someone who is a regular feature at so many Free State Project events. I enjoyed hearing him do, for the first time, I heard him do stand-up comedy at the Porcupine Freedom Festival this past summer. But we know him, we love him. He is the author of multiple books. I've got some of them right here, actually next to me. Usually you might spot them on my bookshelf over my shoulder. But his name is Scott Horton. He's the author of Fool's Errand, Time to End the War in Afghanistan. The author of Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism. And the author of Provoked, How Washington Started the New Cold War with Russia and the Catastrophe in Ukraine. And I actually got a little footnote in this one. I'm kind of proud of that. So let's welcome him to the show, and I look forward to welcoming him back to New Hampshire at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. He is going to be our Friday night keynote speaker. And I really appreciate our friends at Bring Our Troops Home have just signed on as a sponsor for the event, so they're helping to sponsor his travel and everything to come out and join us. His name is Scott Horton, and let's welcome him back to the Porcupine Report.
Hey, Eric, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going really well, Scott. Thanks for coming back on. It's always you're keeping busier than ever these days. I mean, I guess you're not in the midst of writing a massive book, as far as I know. Like last time we spoke, maybe you are.
Well, I do have a book project going, but right now Hunter Durensis, my co-author, is doing most of the work. There is something that's sort of in the works there, but I am trying to working very hard to get my the last of my Cold War course for the Academy done, as well as the audiobook of Provoked, which kind of got put on hold so I could do the Academy thing, but now I'm trying to finish that up. So I had the first few parts, which just, H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, that's like, I think 10 or 12 hours of audiobook already right there. So that's longer than a usual book just for the first 2 chapters. And then I have Bush, Obama, and almost all of Trump recorded, but not yet edited. In fact, some of it's even partially edited, but not completely mastered. And then I still have to finish Trump and Biden years there, but I'm working really hard on that. But it's the last war I'm fighting as always, but yeah.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, your book is, I don't know how many pages. It's close to 700 pages. So I imagine that's going to be a meaty audio book. I just published my own book, and it's like a little half an hour read. It's like a guide to door knocking for candidates. And people keep telling me, you need to do an audio book. And it's like, I can't even imagine doing like a half an hour audio book. I don't know.
Oh, it's so hard. I hate it. It's the worst job I've ever had. Honestly, I've done it because I did a Lou Rockwell book before Fool's Errand, actually, Capitalism versus Fascism. And
Yeah.
I did the audiobook of that. And then I've done now Fool's Errand, enough already. And I'm doing Provoke now. And it's the worst task of all. You know, I mean, doing the Academy, I'm more or less kind of walking you through the book, but I can hem and haw and say, and whatever, kind of, you know, cut things out later a little bit. But reading it for the audiobook, it has to be perfect. And it's never perfect. So yeah, it's hard, man.
Do you feel you do like 10 takes on things to like get it just right?
Yeah, and then it just makes the edit so difficult too, and I just lose my temper quickly. I don't like it. Anyway, so for anybody who likes the audiobook, you better really appreciate it, because what's on the cutting room floor is a lot of cursing.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe you're a Texan, Scott. I bet you could like have the cursing in there, and people would understand.
Yeah, no, we're all better off without the outtakes. I promise.
Yeah.
In fact, I even told Connor O'Keefe, who's helping me with some of the editing, that like, listen, I'm going to owe you for the rest of my life for not blackmailing me with the outtakes of this stuff. It can make me look really bad, but he's a good dude.
Yeah. Well, how is and not everyone watching might be familiar with the Scott Horton Academy, which you just launched. You want to tell people about that before we get into everything else? You got your Scott Horton Academy hat on?
Yeah, that's why I'm so far behind on the audiobook, is I had to stop everything because Tom Woods come to me with a business offer on a golden platter kind of thing, as the Saudis would say. Hey man, let's do a Liberty Classroom, only it'll be the Scott Horton one and it'll be about foreign policy. So I said, yeah, let's do that. So I got myself and James Bovard and Ramsey Baroud, Bill Bupert, Adam Francisco, CJ Kilmer, Grant F. Smith, and all these really great experts to do courses. Deep dives on all the worst stuff, so that essentially, as Tom Woods says, is Scott Horton slowed down so everybody else can catch up. So it's me essentially walking you through enough already and Provoked, and explaining, the blowbackian origins of American, Middle Eastern, and Eastern European policy, and how the Joe Bidens of us got us into this mess, as they have over the last couple generations there, and what to do about it. So. And then, of course, I got all these other great guys on the domestic police state and all aspects of foreign policy, Israel, Palestine, Christian Zionism, the horrible Woodrow Wilson, the worst person who ever lived. Grant F. Smith is going to do a course on the history of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. And it's just really great. And we've got nothing but great response. We launched it right at Halloween, end of October, beginning of November. And it's been a huge success. We got thousands of subscribers already, and getting nothing but positive feedback for the thing. And the point of it really is like, there's a real need here, I think. And especially nowadays, man, I know it's hard for even me to read books, and I like reading books, but most people are not in the habit, but they still need to have the opportunity to catch up on this stuff, have a deep, deep dive on American foreign policy and how things got to be the way they are. Whenever you look at any one of these things standing alone, essentially the propagandists can make it make sense their way when you exclude everything that happened before, as Robert Higgs says, when you truncate the antecedents. Well, I got antecedents, man, and I'm here to spend a long time explaining and get you all up to speed on why things are the way they are, and why you can agree that they don't have to be this way. We don't have to do it this way at all. And then that way there'll be so many, very well-informed, not just well-intentioned, but really well-informed anti-war folk, that we make our own army and that we drown out the war party once and for all. I mean, they're down to the bottom of the barrel right now with Ben Shapiro and Bari Weiss and Mark Levin and, a few others, stragglers, trying to still promote war here. But the American people have essentially turned their back on the war party, but they need a good foundation to stand on. So that's what we're trying to provide with the Scott Horton Academy. And it's at scotthortonacademy.com. And in fact, let's do this. Are we live right now? No, this is coming out later, right? So by the time anybody sees this, we'll do scotthortonacademy.com/FSP and you'll get 10% off. How about that?
All right. Well, that's a great deal for our audience. Thank you, Scott. And I've been thinking about pulling the trigger myself. I mean, so much of what I know about foreign policy is what I learned from Scott Horton over the years. So,
and by the way, for lifetime subscribers, you get a free copy of Enough Already, along with a nice little notebook and pen and things like that. So,
how much does it cost?
For the lifetime subscription, it's $375, I think, $400, and then it's $150 for an annual subscription. And then, like I say, 10% off and a good book for a kickback too for the lifetime subscribers there.
Well, I need to pull the trigger and do that. I know, just talking to you over the years, Scott, and listening to your show and reading your books, I felt like particularly, I mean, foreign policy issues didn't come up very often in the main Senate, but boy, when they did, when someone's putting in a stupid resolution parroting CNN talking points about like the war in Ukraine, it's like, you
had some great viral clips there, man. You made the news. Yeah. Maine state senator goes off on foreign policy. This is great, man.
I know one of the Democrat senators and told me afterwards, he said, I think that's the only time that the words mountain of corpses and sodomized to death were ever uttered on the floor of the Maine Senate. Of course,
like, hey, these are Barack Obama times, man. What can I say?
So yeah, but it doesn't. I was talking to my friend Dennis Pratt the other day, and I think he had a good, he made a good observation that the people who become libertarians by kind of realizing, through the anti-war issue, tend to be the best libertarians, and they're the best libertarians because it requires you to really digest and understand exactly what the nature of the state is, right? It's not like I'm a libertarian because, well, I don't want them to, take my money, right? It's bad that they take our money, right? Or it's like, I don't want them to mess with my guns. It's bad that they mess with our guns. But when you understand like the millions and millions of dead people, like going through the gears of this war machine, like just so that, some rich military industrial war profiteers can make a couple extra $1 billion, like, not by producing value for the world, but by, robbing us and then blowing people up in foreign countries who never messed with us at all. Once you understand that's the nature of the state, you tend to have a pretty principled opposition to it. Unless you're a leftist who somehow thinks that the welfare state is somehow different than the warfare state. But so anyway, I encourage people to check that out, and I'll be subscribing at some point.
Very good. And by the way, we have a phone app and everything. So, if you're out commuting, you can, like YouTube, when you turn your phone black, you can't hear it no more. It turns off. But with this, the audio still plays. So, it's, video courses and all that, but you could take it with you, and especially for people traveling and stuff like that, get some long form education for you there. Yeah. I mean, that's when I'm listening to all this stuff on these long car rides. It takes me like an hour to get anywhere, so might as well throw on a course. Yeah. And it's really good stuff, man. I mean, I got this guy, Adam Francisco, as a professor at Concordia University, and, with a Lutheran college system. And he tells like the entire history of Christianity and Judaism since Christianity was invented, and everything that's happened in all the Middle Ages and the Renaissance here and the Enlightenment there and the New World and the Reformation and Christian Zionism at the end, including dispensationalism, but not just that, and just everything about, essentially Christianity and the state of Israel. And I mean everything. I mean, it's just fantastic stuff. And Ramzi Baroud is probably the most articulate Palestinian refugee in the world, as far as, he's the author of a great many books, but he's just the most well-spoken of, representative of their entire, conflict, and a master historian and explainer and everything. And just his course is called The Reality of the Israel-Palestine Conflict. And it is just a killer, man. I mean, it is so good. It's the kind of thing where, I'm hearing about it. People are contacting me and going, boy, oh boy, I'm living in a different world than I thought I was. Thanks for that, so it's working.
Awesome. Well, and I know in addition to that, it's been awesome to see kind of, I don't know, over the last couple of years, like you seem to be getting on bigger and bigger platforms. It was awesome to see you. I know, like right after Pork Fest, you went on Tucker Carlson and got access to his audience and kind of, opening the eyes of a lot of people on the right in America about the nature of the war machine. And I think it's telling that, like, the kind of the Republican base is not like, I mean, there's a portion of it that's just like on board for anything that Trump does, or certainly on board for what Trump does, as long as he's siding with the war machine. But more than ever, it just seems like there's a huge portion of like the MAGA America First base that are not going along with this, are not going along.
Yeah, I mean, right now, on the potential eve of war with Iran, not that we have a real good reason to go to war with Iran, but it looks like we might. The president has a bare majority. It's like 53, 54% of Republicans support it. 70% of the population of the country opposes it. Super majorities of independents and Democrats, but it's just a bare majority of Republicans that support it. On the eve of war, when you would think, the whole rally around your leader in wartime and all of that kind of thing. But, if you think back, or you're maybe a little bit younger than me, but I don't know if you remember, but anyway, even if you're younger, you should know W. Bush famously said in his debate with Al Gore, one of his debates, that we should have a humble foreign policy and we should mind our own business and respect other people and this kind of thing. And then, but then some guys kamikazed our towers and it was a whole new day kind of thing. And so just forget all that kind of. But Donald Trump didn't just mumble something about humble. Donald Trump stomped his foot and said he hates war more than anyone else in the whole world. And he's the greatest peacemaker who ever lived. And he deserves 3 Nobel Prizes. And just, you know what I mean? He's just so hyperbolic in everything he says. When George Bush went to the Middle East, that was the worst decision any president ever made. That's what Donald Trump said. So for him to turn around and do this now, it just stings, man. Nobody kamikazed our towers this time. Just Netanyahu demanded, and Trump's clicking his heels and doing as he's told by the leader of a tiny little worthless foreign power that doesn't even have any oil, doesn't even have any reason at all why we should do what they say. And it's just such a betrayal and such an obvious turnabout. You can't call that a flip-flop, man. That's a stab in the back. Like, what do you mean you're going to launch a regime change? I thought you said the problem was obliterated last June. Now we got to do this again? Like I said, once you start, you haven't solved the problem. This is the train we're on. So
what is it?
Anyway, one more thing on that, Eric, is just Colonel McGregor says time wins more arguments than reason. Right? People don't want to listen to Scott Horton tell them that you shouldn't be doing this. But sometimes when the caliphate rises in Western Iraq in 2014, because Obama helped build it, they say to themselves, geez, like, what are you going to do, dude? We've been at this for all these years, and this is what we have to show for it. In 2026, after all these years of war, can anyone say what the American people have gained other than national debt? And I say this like only kind of tongue in cheek. The only real thing that I can think of is advances in prosthetic limb technology, which is like the grimmest, most sickening sort of silver lining that you could think of. That so many of our guys and their innocent victims got their limbs blown off, that they made advances in Luke Skywalker hands, for the future. What else? Unless you collected dividend checks from Raytheon and Lockheed, then you're a victim in all this. right? Unless you're Likud, then you are the butt of this joke.
Yeah. It's amazing that, here we are, right? We got an ISIS Al-Qaeda leader in charge of Syria, and they're like panning that off as a victory, right? This is what we gotten out of it is the networks that actually did attack us on 9/11 are now in charge of Syria, and we'll invite them over to the White House and talk about a new era of peace.
And again, why? Because Israel prefers that to Hezbollah, the Shiite threat. Even though it wasn't Hezbollah that knocked our towers down, that sounds like an Israel problem to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, for you and your entire audience, Al-Qaeda here, Hezbollah there. Which one is bothersome, right? Like, which one has slaughtered thousands of Americans starting in 1990, including blowing up the World Trade Center twice? You know what I mean? Hezbollah, what the hell is that? Americans, ask an American who hates Hezbollah where they're from and what religion they're part of and what. They don't know nothing about it. There's no such thing. It's just Israeli hype, right? You might as well be talking about a criminal syndicate in West Jerusalem. What's that got to do with us?
What do you think does it say about the nature of the empire now that the propaganda campaigns for going to war are so half-hearted compared to what they were like in the George W. Bush years, right? It's like, well, why are we taking out Maduro? It's like, drugs. It's like, fentanyl. It's like, the fentanyl's not even coming from there. It's like, it's like they're not even trying. Like, why are we going to war against Iran? It's like it was nuclear weapons, it was nuclear energy. And it's like drones or protesters. It's like it's like it's not a sincere effort. It's like they don't even care about, maybe they care about getting popular support, but they know they can't really. So, and maybe they just decide they don't need it.
Yeah. And well, there's a couple things there. First of all, like it could just be the basic competency issue where Karl Rove and the White House Iraq group, they had focus groups and they were A/B testing all of this stuff. And they had, with the neoconservative network at that time, the Weekly Standard and the National Review were so important. The editorial pages of the big three papers were so important. And the neocons had a lock on that, plus Fox News. And it was just, man, they had the echo chamber down set before 9/11 ever happened. The axis of crystal is what Justin Raimondo called it, right? And they were just ready to go. Here's the narrative. Here's the enemy. Let's get them. We're here. I think you just don't have anybody like that. Who's the most competent person in the Trump White House? I don't know. I'd hate to throw that word around to apply to any of these goons. Stephen Miller or, I don't know. Witkoff seems to be somewhat competent at least trying to serve the president in his shuttle diplomacy and stuff like that. But, there's a lot of kind of amateur hour sort of stuff there too. And then there's also the question of the size of the Iraq war. They're building up this massive force in Kuwait for a year and a half. And they know they've got to beat everybody over the head with the danger in order to get them on board for this, to get a UN resolution and all this. At this time, Colin Powell and Tony Blair are afraid they're going to go to jail if we start a war without a UN resolution. That's so quaint now, but they were actually worried about that then, I don't know if Colin Powell's really worried about going to jail, but he was worried about the precedent it would set. And so they really wanted to go to the UN and get a resolution authorizing an aggressive war, whatever. In this case, we're talking about potentially a massive air assault and sea assault. Nobody's talking about dropping the Marine Corps or the 3rd Infantry Division, or you know what I mean, into Tehran to really see a regime change through, which I would hasten to point out is goes to show why you shouldn't go messing around with stuff like this when, even as Rubio says, they do not have a plan for who comes next. They do not have a replacement force. Just like in Venezuela, remember Trump threw the right-winger lady under the bus and said she doesn't have the trust of the people to take over the country. So that's why we have to keep the next communist in line. We're just going to make them do what we say, but we're not overthrowing the regime, just the president himself. Well, they're kind of acting like that here, that they recognize they can't parachute the son of the old monarch in there. Are you crazy? They're gonna put in the Mujahideen cult, communist terrorist cult. the people of Persia just ain't gonna accept that. So what does that leave us with? Well, here's what you can do, Mr. President. Drop a 2,000-pound bomb on the Ayatollah's head and then say to the next beard in line that, like, look, man, I'll kill you too. Just obey or else. Essentially, as they tried, more or less the same thing that they did in Venezuela. He threatened to kill the next lady in line, the vice president. He said, you will suffer a fate worse than Maduro if you don't bow down, lady. And which was obviously an explicit threat to murder her, to assassinate her. And so you could see them toying with the idea that that's what we'll do. We'll just kill the Ayatollah, and then we'll just tell the next guy, sign the deal, whatever we say. But I just think there's no way that you could place a bet on that's going to work. I read a thing in the Wall Street Journal, Eric, where they're going, well, God, this sounds like such idiocy. I can't, I guess, entirely rule it out, but sure sounds crazy to me, man. They go, well, what it really comes down to is we got to make sure that the military knows that we are sincere when we promise them that if they will turn on the Ayatollah and the ruling mullahs, that we will support them and not leave them high and dry to be killed by the IRGC. I'm like, what? I mean, you know what I mean? Does that sound crazy? Like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a deal with the army that we will help you kill the Special Operations Command and the president and take over the country. Does that sound like something the army's ready to do here or in Iran? Does that sound likely? Now, maybe, I don't know who all is a general in the Iranian army, and I don't know how much relative power they have compared to the leaders of the Quds Force and the IRGC and whatever. But I would think that they basically have that pretty well in hand, and that it sounds like a fool's errand to me, trying to go and bribe a coup d'etat out of this regime after all this time.
I mean, even if you could pull that off, which sounds very fanciful, I don't know why anyone would believe our government on a promise that we'll stick by you when things get tough, because we never do. So
exactly.
A lot of dead people have fallen for that before.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and Scott, I know you're aware of this, but just to state this for our audience, right? Over the course of the war on terror, close to half of the troops on the ground in these conflicts have been state National Guard units, are close to half, not quite half, but close to half. And there's been this effort led by our friends at Bring Our Troops Home to pass Defend the Guard legislation in state legislatures using state authority over the National Guard troops to assert authority and call those troops home from wars that have not been declared by Congress, as is constitutionally is required before the federal government can take jurisdiction over National Guard troops and send them off into foreign wars. And since World War II, they haven't declared war once, and so the states constitutionally retain authority, theoretically have the authority. They just haven't exercised it ever since. And there are very few states who have been willing to really advance this issue insofar as to pass a legislative body. New Hampshire is the first to have it passed through a House chamber, and it just happened again for a second time. 2 years ago, it passed by a pretty slim margin. Republicans, for the most part, overwhelmingly supported it under the Joe Biden presidency. And they won a few progressive Democrats to get it over a majority. It went to the Senate, and the Senate wouldn't even do a roll call vote on it. They didn't want to go on record. They just tabled it. This go around, it passed with a larger majority in the House. It actually lost a few more Republicans than last time, because go figure, Republican president now, not all of them wanted to challenge the Republican president, but still most of the support came from Republicans. But more Democrats came on board this time because, I'm sure it's the partisan tribalism, right? Now it's a Republican president they want to take this authority away from. And so a large majority in the New Hampshire House passed it just a few weeks ago. It goes to the Senate this time, where, unlike last year, we have 5 Liberty senators, where we only had one before. So now we have the numbers to demand a roll call vote in the Senate, which we couldn't do before. I don't know exactly the timing that that's going to be coming up, but I imagine maybe we're going to be talking about this issue quite a bit at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, and I know it's going to be going to a vote in the Senate in New Hampshire sometime around then. What do you make, Scott, of the Defend the Guard movement, the progress that's been made, and anything you want to chime in on there?
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. I hadn't even heard that it passed the New Hampshire House. I get so many emails, man. I must have missed that, but that is so great to hear that that happened again. And I really hope y'all have great luck in the Senate. And, you know, I don't know whether the governor will say, boy, those look like a lot of votes. I guess that's what the people want, and do what the people want, or whether he might bow down and veto the thing. But even then, let's have that fight, you know?
Our governor, Kelly Ayotte, former U.S. Senator.
Oh, no, her. Never mind. Well, listen, so let them fight then. Get it? She's a perfect foil. Okay, this is the war party. And the least competent spokesman. She might as well be Mark Levin up there, this idiot woman. Let her argue for the supreme war power to go serve Israel over there. She was, remember when Joe Lieberman was forced out of the Senate, she stepped in to be the third amigo with Lindsey Graham and John McCain. That's who she is. Ugh, scum.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I would love to, at very least, we're going to get the senators on record for the first time, which is a big step forward.
Yeah, and make her veto it then, and let that be a fight. And why does she hate the troops so much and all that kind of thing, man? Because after all, the sponsor of this bill, they can say that. They are the troops. They've been there and back. And, you know, to quote Diego Rivera, testifying before the Texas Senate, did I just hear you say the word money? Yeah. I could have swore I must have misunderstood, because did you just say money? Because, you know, my friend's dead. He's in a box and he's dead. I know you didn't just say something about money. And they're like, okay, he might have hollered it. But anyway, that was the quote, though. So, like, that's the whole thing of it, man, is from the point of view of a professional politician, is this a wise thing to do? Probably not. It's a hugely controversial thing to do. It's the kind of thing where not just a politician, but an actual leader is going to have to take this up and force the issue. And why? Because it's an emergency. Why? Because the president of the national republic will abuse his authority, will take these men from their jobs and their homes when what they signed up to do was emergency, you know, services in their home state is what the National Guard is really for, not just a bottomless extra reserve for the army to use in endless foreign wars. Everybody knows that. Everyone knows. Everyone. You don't have to be a political libertarian, anything. Every Republican, every Democrat knows that it's a betrayal of the National Guard, that they're over there doing tours, getting blown up in Iraq and Afghanistan and these other places. Isn't that the Army's job? Isn't the National Guard here in case there's a flood or a riot or a sandstorm or you know, what is something out of control here where the state police and the local sheriff can't handle it, right? Like, that's what everybody knows. Of course, that's why people sign up. That's what it says in the TV ad, you know? And anyway, so it is a betrayal and it is an emergency, because even though we don't have guys in Iraq and Afghanistan making it seem like sort of a fever pitch type of a political crisis right now, well, can you imagine having a full-scale war in Iran when the president knows that all the governors back home are going to balk and are going to refuse to send their guard forces overseas to fight another aggressive war for Israel? That he's going to have to not just fight the governor of New Hampshire, but he's going to have to fight the governor of Arizona and the governor of Idaho and the governor of Texas and the governor of Colorado. Nobody wants to give up their troops for this. And they are all in a crisis because their populations back home will not stand for it. Yeah. Geez, I don't know what to do, Mr. President. And I think you and I probably talked about this before, Eric, that if the president of the United States, especially Donald Trump, slams his fist on the table and says, I hereby nationalize the troops of this state, and you're going to goddamn do what I say, they're going to give in. They are going to, if they have to, probably even ignore their governor and just go ahead and be nationalized. And the governor, if it came down to it, would probably just give in. Yes, sir, Mr. President. Okay, you win this round. But again, let's make them have that fight.
Right.
Let's make it where it's the law of the land in the 50 states that no, the president can't just do that. Not unless the Congress is willing to take responsibility and declare a war. Yeah. Some other country invades the United States. Well, the Constitution itself says that he has the authority to repel that invasion. That'd be different. We're talking about starting a war, sending guys overseas for combat. And
yeah,
again, as you introduced it, the entire technicality of the law is that if the federal government will obey the law, then the states will let them do what they want. You can have our troops. Just do like the Constitution dictates.
Just vote on it.
Declare war.
Yeah. Yeah, but then, of course, if they vote on it, then people have the opportunity to hold them accountable for that in election season, and that's the last thing they want. They just want to collect their military-industrial complex campaign contributions without having an actual vote that they can be held accountable for. But I like what you said there, Scott. Like, it is very much, I mean, maybe states pass Defend the Guard, and maybe the Guard still gets nationalized without a vote of Congress, but it does expose something, right? It's like that moment in Atlas Shrugged when they're coming for Hank Reardon's like special medal or what have you. And he says, you can have it, but you got to come with guns and you got to take it from me, right? We're not going to like do this pantomime of I'm like voluntarily handing this over and I'm on board with this. Like, you should expose yourself as the violent criminals that you are. And then come like bandits and come and take it. But
you know what? Here's another comparison too, is although this one is fraudulent, but it still works. It's the same kind of idea in a way. Is there's a right-wing rabbi from Brooklyn named Rabbi Yerushalmi. And Rabbi Yerushalmi and his group are the ones behind this push around the country to ban Sharia law in all of the state governments. Now, is Sharia law taking over any of the state governments? No. But the whole thing is just a public relations exercise to get this law passed in state after state so as to give people the impression that Sharia law is being held off somehow, that this was an emergency. And thank goodness the legislature is doing something to respond to us all being enslaved into Islam or something, right? When the whole thing is just propaganda to make you hate Israel's enemies. So it's easier for Israel to convince America to help them, you know, with money and with weapons and with diplomatic cover to kill those people and steal their property. And so that's what it's all about. It's just public relations for the rubes, right? But whoa, how successful. It was so successful, not just in getting passed, but in making people believe that, yeah, there was a real crisis that was being confronted here. It was the same thing here. Why is this an issue that you have so many veterans of the Iraq and Afghan wars who are trying to get this law passed through the 50 states? Because it really matters a lot to them. And in this case, it's not some phantom, some public relations for a foreign nation like Israel. But the point is still the same, is to make this controversial. How can this even be an issue? You're telling me that you're debating a law that's going to make the governor fight with the president over the status of the Guard troops? That's huge. In fact, as soon as this came out, PBS came and did a 20-minute thing about it for the nightly news hour and interviewed Dan McKnight and the rest. This is a severe and specific and bottom-up constitutional legal challenge to the form of the American empire. Guys who've been to Iraq and Afghanistan coming back and saying it's not supposed to be like this, and we refuse to allow it to go on like this for the next generation, and two, at the expense of the next generation, you know. And so we haven't won it yet, but the fact that they keep doing this and passing it or getting it introduced in state after state after state and getting it passed through some committees, some houses, some senates, you know, it hadn't come to, you know, a governor's desk yet, but that may very well happen this year. But the fact that this continues to be a controversy is huge for the overall idea in the society, creating the impression in the society, a correct one, that it's guys who came home from the wars who are now spearheading the effort to prevent this from happening to their younger brothers, so to speak, you know? And so it's huge. There's nothing more important for the anti-war movement in America. And especially anybody listening to this who you cashed out your Bitcoins right at the top of the market there and you're feeling great, you should kick down to bring our troops home and defend the guard. They need support for this thing. It's a huge effort. And with Diego Rivera and these guys, you're getting your bang for your buck. And, you know, they're my friends. I'm not associated with that group technically in any way. But I'm saying, like, yes, if for those who can afford it, you want to do something important. Geez, I don't know, Scott Horton, what can we do? You can support Defend the Guard. That's what you can do.
Yeah. After you've made your donation to the Free State Project, which is
and the Libertarian Institute,
you know, which has delivered the concentration of libertarians to New Hampshire to get Defend the Guard going here. That these are definitely great groups, and they all deserve support. And I will say, you know, one thing I've really appreciated in New Hampshire is kind of working on this issue here. It's the only issue I've actually gone to the State House here to testify on in committee. But you know, right outside the State House, there's a statue of Daniel Webster, he's a hero here in New Hampshire. You know, former U.S. Secretary of State, and he's got this quote, right, that there will come a time when it is the responsibility and the duties of the states to interpose between the national government and their militias, you know, to stop, you know, I'm butchering the quote, but you know, that's the gist of it. And so it's great. It's like that. You can go to any politician who's on the fence about Defend the Guard and say, you're going to vote against this? You're rejecting the wisdom and legacy of Daniel Webster? Like, are you even like a Granite Stater? Are you even someone who believes in live free or die spirit? It flies in the face of the history of this state. And so it'll be very interesting to watch as it goes to the Senate. And, you know, God willing, it goes to the governor's desk and she's forced to, if she vetoes it, I imagine she probably would, but I'm sure there would be a lot of pressure on her from both sides on that. It will have gotten further than this has in any other state. And every time it comes back stronger, and the support for it continues to grow. Scott, you know, we're looking forward to welcoming you next month at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. So that's
I'll try to think of something to say.
I think we've got you. We've got you billed as how to build freedom from the war machine, and it's a perfect time as the Defend the Guard push is happening in New Hampshire. Have you been to the New Hampshire Liberty Forum before? I know we've had you at Pork Fest quite a bit.
I don't think so. Well, man, I don't know. I've given a lot of speeches before.
Well, you know, at least your first time here under my tenure, so we're looking forward to having you. And I know you're coming out and then you're dashing off to some other Libertarian Party state convention somewhere the next day.
Maybe this is the one where I'm going to Wisconsin or West Virginia or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you making the time to come talk with us, and everyone who wants to see and meet you in person. This is a great opportunity for them. And I'm sure we'll probably find some time you can, you know, sell and sign books if you bring some with you. I'm sure a lot of folks would love to get copies of Provoked or some of your other books autographed.
Cool.
Yeah. We're approaching the 50-minute mark, and I want to be respectful of your time. Any final things we want to cover while we got you on here, Scott?
No, I don't know. I guess I would just say that, you know, I'm with you guys in spirit. I love New Hampshire. It's a wonderful place in June. And I really like all of you guys up there. I have a lot of good friends and, you know, lifelong friends I will have up there, you know, that I've made. And it's too damn cold for me and for my old lady. There's no way we're going up there, man. But we do like to visit very much. And I look forward to coming to do the Liberty Forum. And then, of course, we'll see y'all in June. Is it right you guys are moving? Pork Fest is now going to no longer be at the place?
Yeah. So what's going on with Pork Fest? It's a little up in the air right now. And people ask me every single day what's going on. The truth is, any single day, I'm hoping for good news. And we're recording this episode a little earlier than usual. So who knows? You know, maybe by the time we air it next Wednesday, there'll be good news. But we're in talks with a venue that looks very promising. but we're dealing with permitting pushback from the city that it's located in. So we're looking at I'll tell people we're looking at fairgrounds. There's fairgrounds that are open to us, and we're working. They're very excited to have us. The city is, being bureaucratic about it. So we're hoping to get there. The tentative dates we're looking at are June 30th through July 5th. So this would be over the 250th anniversary of American independence. It'd be the freest place on earth to celebrate the 250th. Like, where else are you going to want to do this? You're going to do this in like California? Like, no, you want to come to New Hampshire and celebrate with the most freedom loving people on planet Earth, the 250th. So that's what we're hoping to do. We're planning on, but everything is dependent on if we can get this contract signed and the permits, and the process is dragging out. So I know people are starting to plan their summer vacations. At very least, they should mark their calendar for June 30th through July 5th, and we'll have news for people as soon as possible. And I know, Scott, you already pre-agreed to come join us again for PorcFest if we get this going. So thank you for that. Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, all right. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for joining us in about a month for the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. Folks should come on out, get their tickets at nhlibertyforum.com. Folks should check out the Scott Horton Academy. What was that link again? It was scotthortonacademy.com/FSP, something like that. You got it. All right. Apparently you get 10% off. So it's a great deal. That's right. I'll probably be using that myself. And Scott, thank you so much. We'll see you in the Free State shortly. Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. All right. All right, everyone. That's the show. Thank you again for joining us. Reminder, go to nhlibertyforum.com. Use our discount code PorcReport, pork with a C, not a K. You get 5% off your tickets. We're looking forward to seeing you there. And next week is our 100th episode. I've got a great guest lined up, and I'll give you a hint who it is. You're going to need to be really esoteric in your knowledge, though, for this hint to mean anything. It's the same person who I had as a guest on my 100th episode for my last podcast, Free America Now, when I was at Young Americans for Liberty. I figured I like the parallelism there. So I'm looking forward. Guest I'm very excited about. He was on my 100th episode of my last show, my 100th episode here. You'll have to wait to next week to find out who it is, unless you want to go do some sleuthing. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.